Yes, another live stream, and this time it's kind of from a different genre. I mean, oftentimes I'm talking to bona fide people who you think of as leaders and writing about leadership, and seldom do I go into the world of sports to bring someone to you who I think. So I'm in Tampa these days, right? I lived in the Tampa market, and I've been a Tampa Bay Buccaneers season ticket holder for quite some time now. And I know we're supposedly have the GOAT here, right? Like we're supposedly have the greatest of all time here. I think you're going to meet one of the greatest human beings who's played football of all time today. I've known him for an incredible period of time, and he's just been so gracious, and he's always been committed to helping people learn how to make a difference in the world, a lot around student athletes. Certainly his story of grit and determination, his ups and downs in his professional career, his pivot after having the limelight of being a professional football player, a Ring of Famer for the Denver Broncos, is worthy of our time and our conversation. I am extremely honored to share with you somebody who I actually call a friend, Karl. He may not call me a friend, but Karl.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, no, of course. You not only a friend, but a mentor in the speaking business. It's an interesting business. You're not so much on a team, and it's great to have people that care about you and that have your best interests in mind.
And you have been that person. I think your team spirit has been in an industry that is very isolative. You've been one of those people who've kind of understood that nobody gets here alone. Like no one's an island, right? It takes collaboration. So let's talk about you and your. I think because you were so successful in the NFL, it just seems intuitive that you were this hot shot coming out of University of Minnesota, highly recruited, high pick in the draft.
That was not me, Joseph. You know that.
Let's talk about what you were.
I was a JV player as a junior in high school. I didn't even make the varsity team until my senior year. I went to a little Division II school, Augustana College in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, on a 1/3 scholarship. Which they took away after 2 years. So I left and I walked on at the University of Minnesota. I was the 310th pick of the draft, 20 guys away from Mr. Irrelevant. I was definitely not the guy that was the height, weight, 40 time guy. I was the team guy. I was the I'll do whatever he asked me to do guy, playing special teams. Actually, at one point they had me playing all 7 defensive front positions, sometimes in one game. Moving me around all the time. I was up for anything. Just let me try to tackle the guy with the ball.
Well, and the 7 positions has kind of come back to haunt you in the sense of the NFL Hall of Fame. I think that you've been nominated many a time. Your stats are so freaking confusing. They're not like a position stat player. I can't compare you to a defensive end or a linebacker, right? You're all right. A bag of chips in terms of complexity.
That's true. I think if you just look at my stats, you say, well, he's not a Hall of Fame guy. How can we put him ahead of somebody who had, a third more tackles or a third more interceptions or a third more sacks? But I did all of them. And I don't think anyone's ever done that. I don't know that that's necessarily a reflection on me. I think it's a reflection on our team. Our coach understood that he could confuse other teams by moving us around, and we had to have everybody on the team understand at least 2 different positions, and that's a tough thing. You trying to understand one position in the NFL and prepare for one position is difficult, but to ask everybody on the defensive front 7 to know 2 positions because one of us is moving all over the place was a tough thing. We just had the right group of guys and the right coach.
And I think a willingness to not just be a single role player, right, but to really be a generalist based on the team need, which is a key lesson for leadership in life, right? I mean, seldom you get to just assume one slot and play that slot the whole time in the context of business or life, for that matter.
Yeah, I agree. As a defensive lineman, which is where I started, you're looking at the ball on a penetrating defense, and as soon as that thing moves, you go upfield, and your focus is real tight. That's all you see. That's all you worry about. If it's a reading defense, you look at the nose of the guy lined up across from you, and you read the direction he's going, and you move that direction. You step with that foot, and you go forward. You don't ever go backwards or sideways. And as a linebacker, all of a sudden you're standing up. You got to move every way, side to side, backwards, forwards. And you got to see the whole field at once, because this guy's staring at the ball, and you got to tell him if anything changes. And I think it's a real reflection of a movement within an organization from a frontline position to a leadership position, where all of a sudden you're concerned about everybody around you, and you have to know what their assignments are and what they're doing anyway, and help them out. So I look at the great leaders as people who can identify what the strengths are on their team and use the strengths of the individuals to help the team, figure out what the weaknesses are of the individuals, and use the strengths of the team to cover for those weaknesses.
So let's go back to just the numbers game here. Like, you barely sneak above the radar in terms of the draft, right? But then if we look at the numbers at the backside of your career, I don't know, I'm guessing 20 people at most are in the Ring of Fame. Maybe there's a couple more or less. The Ring of Fame that surrounds the stadium for the Broncos. One of those names is Karl Mecklenburg. And every time somebody new comes along, all of you all show up and kind of celebrate the new entrance into this very exclusive club from all the players who've ever played the game. And these are the Floyd Littles of the world. These are really remarkable human beings and athletes. So tell me what it's like to have not only snuck above the radar on the draft, but then to be one of the few you can actually experience when you look around the stadium.
Yeah, I didn't go into it thinking that was going to be my legacy, but I was going to work hard every day. I was going to understand what my assignments were, what was expected of me, and try to fulfill those things. I don't think greatness is something that you do in a lifetime. I think it's something that you do every single day. So that dedication, that
hold on. That's like a moment. I got to frame this one in my little brain. So it's not something you do in a lifetime. It's something you do every day. So what you're saying is that you're not determined to be great based on a reflection back period across your life. You have to earn it every day.
Right. It's one of those things that when it's over, you can look and say, okay, I did this, I did that, whatever. But when it's happening, you're just trying to make the next play. You're just trying to get healthy for the next game. You're trying to understand, okay, this team always runs to the wide side of the field, so coach is going to always line me up either as a lineman or as a linebacker on the wide side of the field, and I have to be aware that, this formation means this, and if it's third down, they're going to do this, and it's a blur when it's happening. It's the ability to prepare well and then be decisive and react when it's time to react. It's not, I gotta make these many plays to make sure I make the Pro Bowl this year. It's you're just hanging on, man.
So let's talk about some of the ups and downs of your career on the football field, and then I want to talk about the pivot after being this Pro Bowler. To me, one of the things about this whole sport is you try to make it to the Super Bowl. Like, that's the whole thing. And then you win the Super Bowl, and you have reached the pinnacle that most athletes who play professional football do not have. Talk to me about your journeys to the Super Bowl and the outcomes.
Yeah. First of all, that's a very accurate thought that for the good teams, the whole deal is to go to the Super Bowl. When I first got to the Denver Broncos, the Broncos were owned by a guy named Edgar Kaiser. Edgar Kaiser was a financier out of Canada. I don't think if I'd have passed him on the street, he'd have known that I was one of his players. He was never around. It was an investment for him. Our cornerstones, our purpose as a team was to make Edgar Kaiser money. It wasn't to win the Super Bowl. Pat Bowlen bought the team my second year there, and owned it for the 11 more years that I played for the Broncos. And our cornerstones were were there, and they were obvious, they were clear, and they were consistent. We're here to win the Super Bowl, and we're here to serve the community. That's what our job was. That was, the ultimate thing that we were doing. And it was clear, and it was consistent, and we were able to accomplish a lot. I think we had 2 losing seasons out of 12 when I played. I played in 3 Super Bowls. We didn't win any of them, but we set the tone and kind of moved the team forward to where they were able to win 3 after I was done. And really, that leadership.
I just got to jump in there. I mean, what is that like? I mean, you're in 3 Super Bowls, 3 losses. Some of them were not pretty losses.
All of them were not pretty. There's no pretty losses. Those were
I've been my whole life. I've got a Peyton Manning helmet signed back here. You've got to remember those days, and some of the John Elway victory days. So you were in the Super Bowls, in Super Bowls with John Elway, right? I mean, one of those.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. John was a rookie the same year I was. He was the first pick. I was the 310th pick.
What did they get that wrong? I'm just saying. What were they thinking? Some kid out of Stanford. Did he go to the Colts first, and then he went? No.
Yeah, he was drafted by the Colts. John's father was a head coach in the Pac-10, and the head coach at the Colts at the time was also a guy from the Pac-10, and John's dad's like, you don't want to play for that guy. He's telling you to play baseball, play him to do whatever, but get traded, figure out a way out of there. So that's what happened.
What an experience. We could talk about that at some point, the John Elway days, and just the big, dealing with a John Elway or a John Wayne or a figure that's just larger than life. But one of the things that I really want to get beyond is that, obviously you had this amazing success. It was a transformational time for the team, but you never got to that rung. You got so close. And then
I've been avoiding this question every time you ask it. I know what you're getting at.
We got a total of 45 minutes. I've only got 30 more chances at the question. All right.
Yeah, no, the fact of the matter is each game, there was a different reason we lost it. I don't think any of them we went into as the favorite, where people were expecting us to win the game. That doesn't matter. We expected to win those games. There was we got out coached one time. We got out just totally outplayed by the 49ers. They were just a dominant team. And then we had some individual breakdowns in games where, one of them we had a guy that was so high on cocaine that he had no idea where he was and what he was doing, and the coaches couldn't figure it out, so they didn't take him out, and he was just messing up. So there was always there's always a reason you lose. Yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm most focused on, it really isn't why you lost. That really wasn't where I was going. I was kind of going, what is it like to be so close to this pinnacle and actually experiencing something that most players don't get to do anyway, which is being a Super Bowl, let alone 3 of them, right? But then never to finish that out, like never to have that final, the ascent of the mountain. It's like you get up to the saddle of the peak, and then you go, okay, we got to go back down now.
Joseph, it's interesting. I would have liked to experience a win, but I've talked to guys who have won. Obviously, I know a number of guys who won that I played with, just a couple years later. And they were really surprised that a week later, guys were getting traded. People were going in for surgery. The next season was starting, and it was over, and it was done. And they got a ring a couple weeks later, a month later, but it was all about the next year. And it was no different from losing, where it's you play 16 games a year, or 17 or 18, or depending on how far you get in the playoffs, and then you lose or you win that last game, and the season's over, and it's done, and it's a whole new group of guys. The average career in the NFL is 3 years. It's always new guys coming, and your job is threatened, and you got different coaches coming and going, and I felt like I really missed something by not winning the Super Bowl. But then I talked to the guys who did, and it was amazing how many times they said that there was that letdown a couple of weeks later when all of a sudden they realized, oh, we're
This is such a metaphor for
now
life.
just like everybody else, right? I mean,
This is such a metaphor for life, though, right? I mean,
sure.
when you realize what you think is the ultimate goal, sometimes it rings hollow when you finally get there. Or maybe it's not the destination as much as it's the journey. And you were on the journey for a long time, and just feeling like you're making progress in your life and beating the odds. There's so many wonderful things. And yet, there people will continue to focus on, but you never won a Super Bowl. And yet, my gosh, what you have accomplished. I want to really focus on the pivot afterwards, because you could have been a sports announcer, you could have done all kinds of things, and yet somehow you assessed your own personality strengths, and you kind of knew you wanted to make a difference in a different kind of way. And you got into this weird thing called professional speaking, and a lot of celebrities, and God knows, I've been doing this a long time. I've shared the stage with some pretty remarkable celebrities, but there isn't much there. It's like just a bunch of green room stories and no message, right? You, I think, passionately are a guy who's gritty and a leadership dude. And it comes off every single time you talk. I mean, I'm just like going, wow, yeah. So tell me a little bit about those decisions and that pivot point for you.
Well, my dad's an obstetrician, and obstetricians, when they're waiting for the baby to be born, they stand around and tell stories. So I'm a storyteller. I grew up around that. I enjoy it, and I really think it's a great way to communicate and relate to crowds, and allow people to kind of get a feeling for who you are, and how your story, as someone in an audience, someone in business, someone in an association, how your story relates to my story. To me, success is overcoming obstacles on the way to your dreams. That's what it is. It's a challenge, and whether you're in football, whether you're in education, whether you're in construction, anything, finance. I speak to about 40 organizations a year, all around the country. I love it. I get to perform, and I never get hurt. It's a great job. So it's a lot of fun. And the stories, some of them are funny, some of them are difficult, but they all are leading in the same direction. Once again, success is overcoming obstacles. You're going to run into challenges.
And who more credible than a guy who shouldn't be playing in the NFL by, probably many calculations from a lot of people, right? And then you not only do it, but you do it. And I think you're the journeyman's, favorite in many ways, right? This guy who just worked hard. That really was your ethic.
Yeah, I think the one thing, Joseph, that made me the football player that I was, it wasn't my height, weight, 40 time, any of that stuff, although I got very strong because I could work at that, and that's something anybody can do, was being decisive. Decisiveness is a huge thing, not only as a football player, but as a business person, as a family man, as a member of a community. If you can take the first step in the right direction before anybody else does, all the angles change in your favor. And it doesn't matter if you're the smartest guy or the fastest guy or the strongest guy. If you can take that first step in the right direction and own that piece and take it on, you're going to have a chance to be successful. So for me, it was all about decisiveness. And if you can, the question is, how are you decisive? Well, for me, it's preparation. It's going into every day with an understanding of who you're going to meet, how you can help them, how you can make a difference in their lives, how you can make a difference in their business, how you can help them in any way you can. Then when those opportunities come up, that's when you can be decisive, but you have to already have thought about it. So I get up every morning, I do a little Bible study. I think about who I'm going to meet that day, what opportunities I'm going to have to make an impact. And then when those chances come, I'm ready. And then I go.
I
Allowing
love
the
I love the angle thing, because I can see it in the context of football. You just really, if you make the right decision quickly enough, you can see what's happening and which angle to take. Right now, people are struggling to figure out what angle to take. I mean, if there's ever been a time that people should reach out to you to kind of think about decisiveness, grittiness, this ability to overcome obstacles. I don't know that leaders have ever faced the magnitude of obstacles that they're facing today. And even in your business, you've had some obstacles, just in the context of being a speaker, and you've kind of done some re-angling to create much more of a virtual offering and getting certified by e-speakers as a virtual speaker. You've done the hard work to get the best angle on how to deliver content right now for people that will make a difference for them if they're not having large meetings in big arenas.
Yeah, I agree, Joseph. When this thing came and all my clients with personal, face-to-face meetings were canceling or postponing or rescheduling or doing all the stuff that everybody had to do, I was feeling sorry for myself. I was like, well, I've never been in this situation before. And then I thought about it, and I have been in this situation before. I've had 18 football-related surgeries. 10 on my knees. I've been the guy in the training room, trying to rehab, trying to walk, and everybody else is out on the field going through practice, getting ready for the season, and I'm just trying to walk, right? And what I did was I did what I could do. I took that opportunity to be a leader in the training room. To make connections across the team that I didn't have, and were kind of unusual, because on a professional football team, just like any organization, the old people hang out with the old people, the young people hang out with the young people, the black people hang out with the black people, the white people hang out with the white. The offense hangs out with the offense, the defense. There's all these little groups, and to be a leader, you have to be able to cross those lines. So I took advantage of that time to help cross those lines and be a leader in the training room. When I was able to recover and come back and play again, I had those connections. I had that understanding of who those people were. They trusted me. I trusted them, and I could be the leader that I should have been. So I think now is a time to look at what you can do. Obviously you can't do anything about the lockdown. You're not in charge of that. Somebody else is in charge of that. But you can do things. You can make a difference in your customers' lives by working with them. Make a difference in your teammates' lives by working with them. Do whatever you can to make a difference.
Hey, Karl, to just kind of point out how you're, not pigeonholed into being an NFL player. This is a comment from someone from the Netherlands, where I don't think they play the same kind of football as you play.
Yeah.
I think this is the reaction that, and thank you, Vaska, by the way, for sharing your comments. We welcome any comments for Karl. But I think this is what audience members tend to say after they've listened to you. If they were from Denver, or if they were from Minnesota, it's inherently, like old home week emotional to see you, right? Like that's a special kind of, he's part of our tribe thing. But even if you're from the Netherlands and you listen to the kind of content that you provide, it really is that reaction, like great wisdom. I needed to hear that. I need to be inspired. I need some tools to get my focus right as to how to manage the adversity like we've not ever seen in our lifetimes. I love the multiple surgery story. I don't love that you had multiple surgeries, but I think, it's that notion that, you just get up off the mat and the next thing you know, you've got another injury and your surgeon is on speed dial, right? It's kind of crazy what you went through.
Yeah, it is. But everybody goes through challenges. Like, once again, success is overcoming obstacles, and it doesn't have to be a surgery, or it doesn't have to be a pandemic. Things happen. People move on. Situations change. Clients all of a sudden get a better deal somewhere else, and your best client ever is now off in a different direction, and you got to change. Once again, success is overcoming obstacles on the way to your dreams. Have a real strong understanding of what your dreams are, of what your passion, what direction you're going, and you know, be honest and forgiving with yourself. Look at yourself and say, okay, I'm here. I want to get there. How do I do that? I set some short-term, reasonable, specific goals and move in that direction. I look at a desire, a passion, a mission as something that's long-term, general, and somewhat extravagant. I mean, for me, it was, I'm going to be the greatest football player that ever played the game. Nobody believed that except me. I mean, no, but I knew that where I was honest with myself about where I was. I did everything I could to move in that direction every day. And once again, that greatness thing is not something that that is looked at, in my mind, that you should look at as something that's out of reach. It's something that's in reach as long as you're getting better every day.
So when I first met you, we probably were in NSA together in Colorado, I'm guessing, when we probably had our first interaction. But I know that in the context of meeting you, it was early on when you were working on this, a book called The Heart of a Student Athlete. I remember reading drafts of this and just really going, oh, Karl, this has got to get out there. I'm so excited that you're writing this, because it was a lot of stories from your own student athlete time, and maybe even before that, even some stories of you hunting with your dad, if I remember correctly, which has been a tradition, I think, that's gone on long beyond your youth. But it was really quite a lovely commitment to trying to help young people understand many of the things you're talking about now, and really caring about the development of leadership inside of kids who are out there playing sports, but really beyond sports. So talk to me a little bit about what you hope to accomplish with this book and how it's done for you. I know people can buy it on your website, they can buy it on Amazon, but tell me a little bit about your thinking behind this book and how this fits into your dreams or helping others meet theirs. Yeah,
well, when I first got to NSA and ran into people like you, everybody's like, "Where's your book?" What do you mean? Where's my book? And then it occurred to me, oh, I need to write a book. What should I write a book about? What do I know? Obviously, I know football. The people were interested in my story, and I really felt like I could make an impact. Everybody's got a nephew who plays soccer, or somehow they're connected to sport. They know when they watch a football game on television which team is playing like a team and which team isn't playing like a team. It's pretty obvious, and I think most people can interpret that. So how do I relate that to their lives? Well, in my mind, if you can identify who's playing like a team in a professional sporting event or in a college sporting event, any sporting event, you should be able to understand whether you're a good teammate or not. Can you take those lessons, take that understanding, and apply it to yourself? Can you apply it to your family? Can you apply it to your community? Can you apply it to your business? Am I a good teammate? Are we going to win because of what I'm able to bring forward? So that was really the idea behind it. I think there are great lessons to be learned from sport, even Pop Warner football, Pee Wee sports. I grew up playing hockey. There's a story about hockey in there. There's all kinds of different stories. And the way I look at a speech or at a book is you got to come at a main idea from a lot of different angles. I look at it as like a river where you have a cool creek running into it that's coming out of the mountains. You got a swamp over here that's draining into it, coming from a different direction, and different types of stories with different type of tones and lessons that all come together to get you towards that main river moving downstream. So that's.
Man, you really sound like a Minnesota boy there. I'm telling you, like kind of bringing the waterway example into it.
You got enough water in Tampa, huh?
Yeah, we had a lot of water coming into Tampa. Let me kind of walk this through a little bit. I think that part of what you do as your stagecraft, which is I think people don't realize how much craft there is to this art of speaking, right? You obviously have instant credibility, you have celebrity, you have reputation, the credibility obviously born out of your own life experiences. But a lot of people have all that, but they're not really great speakers. And frankly, unfortunately, many celebrity speakers over rely on the celebrity and under rely on the content. And certainly some of them just do the rubber chicken circuit, and they are able to get a bunch of speeches in, but they really aren't caring about the impact. They don't understand how to make themselves better in that space. They were great in sport or they were great in entertainment, but they're not so great on the stage trying to affect people's lives, trying to get them to move forward toward their dreams or to fight through their obstacles, right? So tell me about that whole building of your craft of a speaker, because your impact is huge. It is the stream that's funny. It's the stream of poignance. It's the stream of stories that give us access to something that many of us fantasize about, right? Except we don't want to have the surgeries. Tell me a little bit about how you pulled those threads together and how you really just became an impactful speaker, because you're a CSP, which means you're a certified speaking professional. You certainly have gotten the recognition of our profession as someone who needs to be held to a higher level of respect based on what you've done for audiences. So, why work so dang hard as a speaker? Just glide the celebrity path.
Why would you do something without wanting to be the best? That's been, I think my approach for a long time. I want to, if I'm gonna get up in front of a group, I know truthfully that I'm not going to tell people things that they don't already know. I'm not Mr. Super Deep Thinker, but what I am is I'm somebody who can put forward a concept that you already understand, but maybe you're just not acting on, and make it urgent, make it seem like, what this actually relates to my life. I don't know how many times I've had people communicate with me after I get done speaking that, I'm not a football fan. I haven't watched a pro football game for 5 years, but what you said made a lot of sense. And I'm going to take those concepts and bring them home, work day to day in the way you described, and make a difference in my family's life, in my community's life, in my business's life. And to me, that's a Super Bowl win. Just getting a letter like that. I want to make an impact in people's life. If I'm going to take the time and work as hard as I've worked at this job, I want to win. I want to make a difference, and that, to me, that's winning. It's not the paycheck. It's not the I get to travel to go to Banff or go to
So were you in South Africa and there's been really wild? Yeah. I mean, you've been in some of the exotic lands we get to travel to, and so we used to get to travel to. Those good old days, 2019. Anyway, so let me kind of take this a slightly different direction. I mean, you are available to speak, but there's got to be a part of you that thinks, I played football a long time ago. I mean, do people really still have you top of mind? How is it that you continue to stay relevant when much of your glory is nostalgic? And I don't mean that in any negative way to you, because I know the impact you bring to the table. But I mean, there are people who are going to say, how do you market yourself when your greatest days, the thing that you're most known for, is drifting farther into memory?
Yeah. My son was bragging me up to one of his buddies who hadn't heard of me. My son's a lawyer, and this is a guy from out of state, and so he went online to look me up, and he couldn't find any football video of me, but he found a lot of speaking video of me, and I was so happy. I'm a speaker now. I'm not just a football player. So to me, that's not a problem. People still recognize some of the name dropping names I'll drop every night. You know, I'll talk about John Elway, and I'll talk about Peyton Manning, and you know, I got to talk about Tom. I try to keep up. I'm usually talking about the older guys, but at least guys that most people would remember. But football is an interesting sport, and such a mental sport. And I don't think people understand that. They look at it and they think about their Pop Warner days, and it was just, you know, banging against each other, and there was really no plan. But if you take a professional football game and time it from snap to whistle and leave all the other stuff out, so it's just actual action, it's less than 10 minutes over 3 hours. It's less than 10 minutes of actual action. And one player, you know, I played defense. I played all these different positions, but I only played defense. So that's 5 minutes of effort over a 3 hour span. You know, that's why big fat guys can do it.
Hey, you know what? I got an idea, Carl. You just sparked an idea. Let's just cut out all that wrestling stuff and just do speed football. Let's create a new concept here. We're going to make
Yeah. So I don't know.
It's hard to do that much of a burst of action. So there's really kind of micro segments that are being executed, you know, very precisely. And I think of someone like you as a true thinker. You know, it was a combination of your athleticism, but it was also your intellect that allowed you to anticipate and plan and do some of the things that you talk about from a leadership perspective, right? I mean, it was engaging the fullness of your brain along with the fullness of your body as you would throw yourself at people.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If you don't know what you're doing, it doesn't matter how big or fast or strong you are, you don't have a chance to play in the NFL.
All right, so let's make sure people know how to get a hold of you because you are available to do virtual presentations. I always think right now these virtual presentations, you know, there's a kind of a conflicted perspective. I mean, should we be paying to have somebody, you know, on a screen? You know, there's so many people on screens all the time. As if, you know, why should I pay someone? Again, I think it's a lot of difference between maybe Pop Warner football and NFL. The same is true with a lot of the free content that's just accessible, that has minimal impact. They don't understand the dynamics that are needed to make this medium work. They've kind of got glazed over people who have had so many Zoom meetings. They start to dream in Zoom, you know. So it's something different to engage an audience in this format. And you've certainly crafted that out of necessity after crafting Stagecraft. Now you're Screencraft, I guess is what we should call it.
Sure. Yeah. It's a different approach. You've got to understand that the people have action when you're in a theater and everybody's sitting there and you can see them and they can see you, and I mean everybody knows that you're not going to get up and walk out unless somebody says something totally ridiculous. But in a Zoom situation, you're in your home and the doorbell rings. Or the phone rings and you're waiting for a call from your mother, your wife, whatever, and things happen. So I think it's more difficult to present on Zoom than it is on a stage, in my mind anyway. Maybe it's because I haven't done as much of it, but I also think there are, like anything else, if you practice it and you work at it and you get the right equipment, if you plug into the internet instead of just doing it on the Wi-Fi, and there's just stuff that
and frankly,
professionals do.
Upping our game on this virtual thing, even if we were doing it before the pandemic, it's now such a staple of what people do. But I think you're right. The equipment makes a huge difference. Not having the feedback is different, and you just have to learn the art of kind of communicating a message and just seeing your audience, even though you can't. I was fortunate. I worked in Colorado Springs in radio for a decade, right? So we never saw the audience, and they never saw us. This is why they kept tuning in all the time. They had to see us. It would have been a whole different thing. Hey,
radio. That's what we call it.
KarlMecklenburg.com, right? That's
sure.
The thing. They can see some of your videos there. They could grab your book there. They can get a signed jersey from you there. There's so many cool things to go to your website. I encourage people to visit KarlMecklenburg.com. Watch some of his video clips. Think about, hey, is this a church organization that we could really use a meaningful spiritual person who happens to be a former, Pro Bowler, and or maybe my business needs it. I need to get my team together and kind of give them something that's really inspirational but tactical on how they can help us move through these incredible times. So
I think one of the things that we haven't hit on is the fact that I'm gonna personalize it. I'm gonna tailor it. There's so many celebrity types that come in and they've got their 42 minutes of word for word. Doesn't matter who the audience is. I'm going to talk with you and use your language. Talk about your challenges. Talk about your successes, and I think relate maybe to the team better than you would expect from a celebrity type.
And I can vouch for that. Where do I put my hand up? I can vouch for that. I can. Let me just tell you a quick side story before we go into the rapid round. I followed a guy once. It was just one of those years where I kept following the same celebrity. It just seemed like we were yoked somehow. And after about the third time of following him, I said, it's minute 32. I know what he's going to say. Like, I know he's going to have this phrase about to come up. And sure enough, there it was. It was like he could have just taken the tape from the first two and showed it. It would have been, there was nothing different about it. It was smooth. Don't get me wrong. Smooth, but so heartless, so soulless, not connecting. And anyway, that's not Karl. That's a totally different breed of cat. All right, here we are in the final segment of this. So Karl, I did warn you. Normally I don't warn people. I must like you or something. I warned you that there's going to be just a bunch of stuff pop up, and or I'm going to ask you certain phrases, and I just want your reaction to it in about 4 minutes. We're going to get through a few of these, okay? What's your reaction to that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I said, what is your reaction to what you see on this?
Oh, yeah, that's a young guy. Nice cut, a nice haircut, nice smile, but no, that was a long time ago.
What does it feel like to hit somebody like that?
Feels good. On
your end or his?
Feels good to me. My dad was late to my first game ever, and he comes up to me as a 10-year-old child and puts his arm around me as I'm on the sidelines. I'm already done playing. He asked me, Karl, what do you think about football? My response as a 10-year-old child was, Dad, I really love to smash guys. So I was a linebacker. That's who I was.
This dad who, is what, an obstetrician, you said? And
a kind, gentle, sweet guy.
Yeah. What did I bring into the world? What's it like to walk up to something like this on the outside of a football stadium, knowing that you played a long time ago, but there's still lots of lasting impact that you have? Yeah,
those things are cool. It reminds me of Star Wars when the guy got frozen in the kryptonite or whatever it was that he got frozen in. But yeah, that's a real honor to be mentioned as a Hall of Famer, Ring of Famer for the Broncos, and that's pretty.
This is a very personal. So the next one is very personal to me, Karl. Am I kind of creepy to have this on my wall in my home? Is this are you a little worried about me?
No, I think that's cool. Thank you. That's right. There's nothing more honoring to an ex-player than to have their jersey and wear their number proudly, or have their number and their pictures up in your home. So it's great.
I was a little worried that I was going to need to go to therapy. So I'm really glad that's not the case. All right, let's take all this stuff off. How about Kathy? What if I just bring that word up? What does that mean?
Wow, Kathy's my girl. Kathy and I started dating when we were 15. We got married my first year out here as a Bronco. She has been the heart and soul of my life for as long as I can remember. We were just talking about how difficult it would be to be in a bad relationship during this pandemic and have to be stuck in the house with somebody you didn't like, let alone the person you love.
Yeah. So let me just add to that.
Wonderful.
Over the years, you and I have talked a lot about our kids, the ups, the downs. We've been really candid. I mean, kids are not a straight line thing for any of us. But just talk to me just generally about your kids and what it means to be a dad. Because we all know you're this big hotshot celebrity type football player. But I know that probably in context to Kathy, but also in context to your kids, the way you define yourself is much broader than speaker, virtual speaker, or football player. A lot invest in your children.
Yeah, I'm a father. I'm a family member. I'm a community member. I'm proud of my kids. My oldest, like I said, is a lawyer. He was my hippie kid. He was in the band, and he got his degree in world music. Right? Not a lot of
Those
jobs.
are the moments you and I are probably going. We might have been having coffee, going, what was that again, Karl? Can you explain it?
World music. But he got to a point in his life where he's like, I don't want to live like this anymore. He went to law school. He was first in his class at CU. He was worked for the Supreme Court Chief Justice here in Colorado. Unbelievable success as a lawyer.
It's like mid-creative phenomenon.
Yeah, and Kelsey is amazing. Kelsey got her degree in 3D animation, but now actually she works for the University of Virginia as a data analyst. She dropped out of high school, but I think it was because she was bored. She got her GED, went to art school, and then did all kinds of at home online training and trained herself as a data analyst. And now she works for the University of Virginia Medical School as a data analyst.
And she's going to rule the world. You and I are going to be purple. Hey,
Right.
Thank you, Karl, for being a part of this today. KarlMecklenburg.com is a place to go to find out more. Please check out his site and check out what's there. And, I think right now I feel like a musician to fellow musicians, right, where they're trying to say, look, there are a lot of people with incredible talent who, by no fault of their own, the circumstances have changed the trajectory of their careers. Please support one another in that front. Let me tell you about some of the folks who are coming to us soon. Upcoming in the space is Martin Lindstrom, who is he's one of my gurus. He wrote Biology, B-U-Y-ology. He is the king of sensory information and how to market through a sensory perspective. John Spence, a good buddy who wrote Awesomely Simple, really tries to help us think about our lives by simplification and reduction as opposed to addition. Chester Elton, who wrote The Carrot Principle, a really incredible book, and then a variety of other books, including his latest work, which really emphasizes the importance of gratitude. And with that, I will just simply say I could not be more grateful to Karl Mecklenburg, who joined us today. And with that, I'll wish you the best. If you happen to forward this to someone, by the way, I will send a copy of The Airbnb Way to you. If you see, you think you can pass this on to somebody who might be interested in learning more about Karl or getting in some inspiration from that tenacity and ability to overcome obstacles in the direction of your dreams. If you want to share this with somebody, just drop us a note saying, hey, I shared it on Facebook, I shared it on YouTube, I shared it on LinkedIn. And when you do that, we will send you a copy of the Airbnb Way. We'll just get some contact information from you. But let us know that you did it, and then we'll make sure that we pass that along to you. Once again, my gratitude to Karl for his kindness of his time today. And I wish you nothing but greatness as we visit again together next week.